Hello, this is Robin, and today I thought I would tackle in a simple tutorial the topic you see before you. Quite often we find that after we've produced our video, after we've rendered from our program, we have a file that is simply too big for our needs. So in this short video, I'm going to show you simple ways of getting a smaller video file. First of all, what makes a file large? First of all, a longer duration will obviously need a larger file size. A higher video resolution will need more space to store the information. Likewise, a higher frame rate, your frames per second, will need more space. And a higher bit rate, which is an overall measure of how much information is flowing in both the video and the audio. And your choice of a codec when you are creating the file will have a lot of impact on these factors. Okay, so I have a file here that I'm going to use as an example, and it's an MP4 container. It's a music video that I made, and the first thing that it's handy to know is how to get the full information on this file. And this process differs depending on your operating system, but it's quite similar. On Windows, if you right-click on the file and choose the last item here in your context menu, which is called Properties, then you get, in the first panel, you get some very basic information. But if you click on Details, then you should get useful stuff out of here. You've got the width and the height of the frame, so it's 1920 by 1080 in this case. You have the data rate and the total bit rate, which are similar. The frame rate is actually quite high. It's 60 frames per second. The reason for that is this video is a geometric animation, and a higher frame rate preserves the quality better. I made that choice when I rendered the file. And then it's got a stereo audio file and so on. So this is the useful information here. And if you're on a Mac, it's very, very similar. You right click on the file. Instead of choosing Properties, you choose Get Info, and that will give you similar information. It actually gives you a tiny bit more because it will tell you the codec as well, which this doesn't. The simplest way, I suppose, the most obvious way to go about this is to go back to whatever program generated this. So maybe you're working in Adobe Premiere, maybe you're working in DaVinci Resolve, whatever. And you can just re-render the file with different aspects here. You probably can't change the duration, but you can change some of the other aspects, perhaps. It really depends on how much of the original quality you want to preserve, because it will always be a matter of compromise. So, okay, you can do that, but that's not always practical. What if this file was a screen recording? You can't very well go back and redo the entire screen recording, just to get a smaller file size. So instead, I find it handy to transcode the file after the fact. And for this, I like using a program called Handbrake. So if you go to the web and you go to handbrake.fr, France, you get this cute little pineapple logo, and you see that there's a program you can download no matter what operating system you're on, basically, and it's free to use, and it looks like this when you first start it up. So this Handbrake is a program that's specifically meant for converting video from one format to another, a process called transcoding. It has many features and can get quite complicated, but the simplest way of using it is to just drag your file in to the window. It will parse the file, which might take a while if it's a big file. Then over here in your presets, you can just choose a custom preset. So let me choose fast 1080p 30. So this tells me several things. It tells me the new resolution, which will be 1080, which is actually the same as the source resolution in this case, but I'm reducing the frame rate from 60 frames to 30 frames. There are two things here that I like to check. It doesn't hurt, and it sometimes makes the files more efficient. when they're stored online, and that is web optimized and align AV start. And then I ignore everything else in this case, go to the video tab, and now I can change the quality here. Now, you do get a mouse tip, which you can read, which is quite helpful, because this can be a little bit confusing. If you move the slider to the left, it's lower quality, but the number goes up, which is a little bit misleading. And you don't want to go too far. But if you just move the slider a bit to the left, 27, 28, 29, some number like that, then you can save quite a bit of space in your file, and hopefully the difference in the quality won't be noticeable to your eyes. Okay, once you've done that, you can choose where you want the file to go, and then hit Start Encode at the top. And this will start what can be a very long process of converting the file. So this is a good time to make a coffee or go outside for some fresh air or something. While I've been speaking, it's gone up to 3% and so on. Now, I've already done this a couple times, so I'm actually going to stop the process. So this folder shows the results, and I actually created two different files here. As I just demonstrated, I created a version that's a 1080p 30, so quite high resolution file, and I created a lower resolution file at 720p 30. And if you compare the numbers to the original, you'll find that the 1080p is actually already 30% smaller, the file, because it's slightly lower quality, and we halved the frame rate from 60 frames per second to 30 frames per second. But if I play this and compare, I cannot really see a difference to the original. And then the much lower resolution file is, of course, smaller. Again, it's about 63% smaller than the original. So it's only a third of the size, is another way of looking at that. And it's perfectly fine for sharing on social media and many other places. You don't necessarily need the highest resolution possible. It depends where you're distributing the file to. And for most social media, 720p is actually just fine. So I hope this tutorial was useful. It's the simplest possible way that you can transcode a large video file into a smaller one so that it's easier for you to share and back up and so on. Thanks for watching.